Oh, what's up, Internet? What's going on? It's a glorious Monday, and I've got a purple light in the background. Check out the purple, it's blowing your mind. Is your mind blown from the purple background? Oh my God, it's blowing your mind. Monday. What's up, Monday? How you doing? Oh, man, I hope you all are doing super well. Big shout out to the first people in the chat today. Why not? Why not, everybody? Let's give a shout out to the first. Michael Allen, first to the chat today. Congratulations, Michael Allen, very first. Number one with a bullet. Number one in the hearts. Number one in in the charts. I'm sorry, I was listening to a podcast earlier today that was making fun of the guy from... Oh, who is that guy? He's a former singer, and he's been doing these things where he gives a shout out to people, and he goes, and he's like, number one in your hearts, not number one in the charts anymore. I just don't know what to do with myself. I can't remember the guy, but I think it was like, oh, what was that band? I don't know. Somebody will remember, and they'll post it in the chat, but it was making me laugh earlier. James Leiser was second to the chat, quickly followed up by Alyssa Bentley and Joel G., which they are moderators. So beware, you shall be moderated on a Monday if you get out of hand. I don't know what it takes for you to get out of hand, but I think you all know that we're adults around here. We know what it is when you get out of hand in the chat. It's pretty obvious. We know. You know. We all know. Right? We go by the good old rule of thumb around here. Not the actual old rule of thumb, just the saying, the rule of thumb. Just don't attack other people. Just don't be crappy. And don't be a wild racist. That was pretty much the standard. Pretty much set the tone. Does that make sense? So, moving on a Monday. It has been a pandemic. I don't know if anybody has heard the news. I don't know if anybody has heard the news, whether or not it has been a pandemic. It has been intense. It has been an intense situation where we're all just out here losing our minds, working from home, trying to do everything from home, limiting our exposure to the outside world, not communicating, not commingling with the other humans. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get the humans on your face. You don't want to get your hands on the other humans and then put the hands on your face, right? I'm at home, so I can touch my face. But if you're out there in the world, don't touch your face. Anyhow, all of these restrictions because of the virus that is sweeping around the globe, which number one in the charts, number 0 in the hearts, I think, is where the virus comes in on that scale, right? 0 in the hearts, number 1 in the charts for the problems right now that everybody's dealing with. Anyhow, while you're out there having to deal with all of this stuff, something that we all take to heart as an important, integral part of our fish-keeping hobby is the fish club. The local fish club is pretty much... I don't know. I don't know if it's number 1 at this point, mainly because, you know, the way that the world is shifting and things are happening and the communication ability for stuff that's going on. I still think that aquarium clubs and actually going to local meetings and stuff like that is really important. I still think it's definitely in the top 3. Obviously, we all reach out to community via the internet, the interwebs, the series of tubes that are all interconnected around the planet, to be able to, bring our community together closer and stuff like that. But I still think that it's 100% in the top 3, top 1, top 2, whatever you want to say. These local fish clubs are paramount for, people in the hobby, whether you're in the hobby for shrimps, like this little shrimp right over here, or plants, or fish, or whatever other aspects of the hobby. I don't know. Maybe you're an acrylic manufacturer. I don't know. Whatever the aspects are, I still find that the Aquarium Fish Club, the local club, is pretty much the best resource for anybody out there who's getting into the hobby. Maybe you're intermediate in the hobby. Maybe you're in the middle of your hobby. Or maybe you're even an expert and you're accumulating so much stuff from your expertise, like breeding and all that kind of stuff, to be able to share the... Oh, I left out snails. Sorry. It just popped into my head. I realized, let's say fish, shrimp, snails, plants, corals. I can't think of too much else. I mean, obviously there's like hardscape and all that kind of crazy stuff, but maybe let's call those the categories, I guess, that you could really get into. I mean, they're big categories. You say fish, that's like the whole place. But anyhow, as I was saying, that like you could be somebody that gets all the way up to the expert level. It's even very important to have a local fish club, because what I've noticed with even all of the experts I know, they end up with an accumulation of stuff. And I definitely wouldn't consider myself an expert per se, but I even accumulate a bunch of stuff. So for me, it's a little bit different because I do have the online community and stuff like that. But for the average person that isn't like reaching out and putting all this content out and stuff like that, if you are accumulating, upgrading, downgrading, making changes, wanting to get new fish, new shrimp, new plants, new stuff, the local fish club is going to be the best thing that you can do, even to the point like those people out there that live in a tiny town out in the middle of nowhere. It's still a great way to, maybe you only have like 10 people, right? Maybe you only have like 10 people meeting up once every 2 months. But 10 people working on your local aquatic scene is way more than any individual could ever do, unless that individual is willing to dedicate 40 years, and then by that point in time, you're such an old guy or gal, or maybe you're non-gendered, maybe you're, what is that, the gender binary or something? I don't know. Either way, you're such an old human that you reach a point where you're just going to end up passing on your legacy, and that's the best hope that you have. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that's a little bit of a harebrained way to live, I think. Although, with this weird pandemic, it does seem to be more and more likely that the mountaintops will be populated with tiny buildings that people are going to go out there and build themselves because they just don't want to be around the rest of civilization. But if you are one of those people that decides to move way out into the woods all by yourself, you should put a backwoods fish club. Now, the reason I say that I titled this, Will All the Fish Clubs Close? I have noticed that there are fish clubs already making the announcement that they are just going to shutter and stop doing the fish club. And one of the big reasons for this is that local fish clubs don't have any funding. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't necessarily have funding, the organization, or people that are willing to work on it. And I think 9 times out of 10, that's because no one really knows what to be working on, right? And I would say that the most important thing is building up some kind of social network. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm regularly added to people's fish clubs, like on Facebook. I get added to people's clubs on Facebook on a regular basis, and to the point where I just have to decline them because it just becomes too confusing that I'm in all of these fish clubs, and to the point that the other day, I got a message from somebody that I never talked to that was like, hey, we want you to be able to join our fish club, but you never answered our 3 answers. Like, I guess there's some kind of survey that I was supposed to fill out ahead of time to be able to gain entrance to their fish club or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that kind of stuff. But as some people mentioned in the chat, the reason that popped into my head was some people mentioned in the chat that it's so difficult to join up to your local fish club because A, you don't know what the dues are going to be. B, you don't know what the club is about, when the meetings are, what's going on. And guess what? We are the people that could easily contribute to answering those questions once we get a hold of the fish club and go like, hey, your Facebook page is super confusing for anybody to navigate, or your website is super confusing, or your email list thing that you're supposed to be communicating on. I will say this, one of the big local fish clubs around here still operates mainly off of email. Like, you have to sign up for this email exchange list that, I don't know, it sends you an email and then people can email you back regarding whatever your email is, and then all of a sudden your inbox is just flooded with all this like weird junk mail because it's not organized at all, and you just have 900 messages from people in the fish club that just wanted to buy a plant or something that you had. And that kind of stuff, the average person could easily be communicating with the group and go like, hey, I could help you streamline this. Like, this isn't working for most people. You're really reaching a limited group of people that could be organizing that kind of stuff. For instance, one of the times that I talked to a local fish club coordinator, not here in my area, but in a different part of the world, they said, well, I'm too old. I don't know how to do any of this internet stuff. Like, I don't know anything about that. And I said, well, have you asked anybody in the club to help with that? And it was like, well, I don't want to impose on anybody. It's like, but the fish club brings value to the community. And if you don't want to bring the community into the fish club, that's when you end up having to close the doors, right? You end up having to shutter the whole community club that you're trying to build because you're not bringing in the newer generations. And that's one of the things that I've noticed as a common thread, that the fish clubs that don't bring in the newer generations are the ones that close. And before this pandemic, the directly local fish club that I was in, that I didn't even live down here, like I lived 50 miles away, I was still a member of the club down here because I would drive down because it was a nice club and everything. But because they didn't ever like fold in the community into the club, it was just, there's a couple people running the thing, and then it got too much for them to handle, right? And eventually the whole thing blew up, right? So that's some of the stuff that I'm trying to kind of convey to people as to, are these clubs going to go away? And I think, yes, they're going to go away if, A, they aren't bringing in some of the newer generation, a.k.a. some of the younger people, right? If you're not bringing in people's family, right, in order to be brought into the community, it's not going to work. If you're not bringing in the technology, it's not going to work either. The situation that we're in right now with the pandemic, like, you can't just say, well, let's have a meeting. Hopefully people show up. We can charge them money for coming in or something, and then that's going to work. Like, if that doesn't work for the NFL, right? If that doesn't work for Major League Baseball, if that doesn't work for basketball, if that doesn't work for all of these really organized giant systems, like, I don't understand how two people organizing a fish club in Tallahassee or something is going to be able to organize anything at this point. Luckily, the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society, where I live, is pretty innovative, and they're doing a fantastic job, generally speaking. But also, at the same time, if they only have like 6 or 8 people working on trying to keep that club together, it could become a real problem, especially with all of the additional stresses that are going on right now without actually having any of the meetings in person going on. So that's some of the basic advice that I wanted to remind to people out there. And also, if you are somebody that's like on the fence about whether or not you want to get involved with a local club or what you can do with a local club, you definitely would want to think of what are some of your talents that you could bring to the table, right? And once you bring those things to the table, find out who can help you implement them and become a part of the group to help them grow. Because it's really depressing to me to get messages and see stuff that's like, oh, this club is closing. This club is just not going to do it anymore. Realistically, it's like watching the community die little bit by little bit. Elijah Gordon was asking, am I answering questions today? Yeah, I'm always answering questions. So post them into the chat. If I don't get to them, I will always try to get to them. That's why this is a long format show. I just try to do the opening part on the topic whenever I can, although sometimes I'm crazy and, not exactly 100% focused sometimes. This is a pandemic, man. What do you want me to do? So I think I hit most of the points on what I wanted to talk about a little bit with the clubs, but I've definitely seen a lot of disorganization. I've definitely seen a lot of old timers that are generally trying to run something that, it's the year 2020. And if you're trying to run it like it's 1985, it's just not going to continue working. So hopefully there are some young people to kind of breathe some life into it. Michael Harris says, I'm a member of the GSAS, even though I never attended a meeting because he attended their live stream. Yeah, so hopefully we will start to see more and more of the coordinated live streams. I'm down here. I'm a one-man band, I'm a one-legged one-man band in a YouTube contest or whatever. And so I get it. The technology is a pain, all of that kind of stuff. But hopefully we can start to see some of the younger people making contact with some of the old timers to start to get coordinated and be able to do more stuff online and start to hopefully see some more of that. I don't know what it's going to take to get them to get motivated, but it really is depressing when I see that the fish club's closing and getting messages about it. That really is unfortunate. But one of the things that I would like to see for the future is more coordinated live events that actually are live streaming. And I will admit to you guys, you all know that I am working as hard as I can. I'm working as many jobs as I can, along with doing all the YouTube stuff that I do. I've gotten a lot of support over the years, and I just want to say thank you. And we got to check in with our Patreon number right now, because our Patreon number is at 246. We've gone up. Woo! It's always good when we can go up. And YouTube members went down to 90, and I think I already updated that one. But that's our current membership, right? So is this a membership drive? I'm pretty much always in a membership drive. But as I was kind of alluding to, my goal is to continue to do more of the documentary type stuff, to be able to release more long format documentary type stuff on the people, the origin, the execution of some of the really admirable systems, breeders, and that kind of stuff out there. That's my process. I'm continuing to build on that process as much as I can, which I love doing these live shows. I would love to be able to interview some people sometime, but I'm going to admit it. When you try to do this stuff on Skype, if you try to do strictly like an interview format on Skype or something like that, it just does not work. There's still too much of a delay, and you're not really like you're not really there with the person. You're not really actually having that contact with them. So the way that I see it with that kind of stuff, I'm just going to continue trying to do the documentary type things, in hopes that someday some sponsor comes through and helps, like, I don't know, try to put something on Netflix or something along those lines. I mean, I will continue to do on YouTube and all that, but maybe we'll just do it on YouTube. I don't know, but that's my goal right now, is to just keep trying to get information, entertainment, documentary, whatever you want to call it, out to you guys, and just keep doing that. And this is my engagement time, when I get to actually talk back and forth to you guys. I would love to do this 5 days a week. It's just not financially sustainable to do it this way. Michael Allen says, I can see there was a fish club holding an auction in St. Louis, but the only people that could go to the auction were people in the club. Yeah, that's something that I've time and time again, I've tried to explain to people that if you do have a fish club, the best way to generate revenue for the fish club is to hold an auction so that people can buy stuff there from the other people in the club. And by facilitating that, you end up taking a cut out of it, right? That's realistically how that works, is that you, as the provider of the auction, if you're the fish club, that is, you will take your cut of that and be able to continue to grow the club and do events and stuff like that. But considering events aren't really a part of what's going to be happening in the foreseeable future, and I know that it's the optimist's thing to say, well, once we get back to normal, but I think in reality, we don't know that we're ever going to, air quote, get back to normal. We don't. So just counting on being able to do something in November or do something in July or whatever, there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. So what I would be doing if I had a fish club is to continue to innovate and engage as best you can without relying on things like an auction, and maybe figure out a new way to host an online auction or something as a club, right? I don't know. Aquarium Adventures is here, says, do it on YouTube, then Netflix will pay for it, which is actually not a bad summary. That is kind of how some of that stuff works these days. Where's Netflix at? Where's Bezos at? Those are the two people. Those are the two groups that I talk trash to. Jeff Bezos, it's easy to talk trash because that dude doesn't, they'd be putting out tons of TV shows like, hey, what's up, bro? And by the way, I did get a, if anybody's wondering, yes, I got the Amazon affiliates. We got, what do you call that, a pay cut? We got a pay cut? Yeah, a whole bunch of Amazon affiliate stuff got lowered. So the commission got significantly lowered on a bunch of stuff just the other day, like on the 20th, I think. So like a week ago, which is why you're seeing a lot of people doing the you should buy stuff and things like that, promotions, because they're like trying to get their Amazon affiliate back up, which is understandable. But if people were wondering why you're seeing that, that's why, because a lot of things that were at like whatever percentage, like dropped all the way down to 1%, right? So let's say something that was at 4%, it dropped all the way down to 1%. So it has been a little bit of a shocker, but hey, roll with the punches. It is what it is, So that's kind of the way I see it. And, I just only try to post stuff that I think would be helpful to people. George Biss is here. What's up, man? How you doing? Good to see you, brother. Chevy Fish. Oh, yes, the soon. Elijah Gordon says, I have a question. I have an arowana. Oh, here's the question. Just popped up. So I have an arowana, and it escaped my tank and died. I didn't secure the lid enough. Sucks a lot. I was wondering how to dispose of it. Can I eat it or feed it to my cat? I personally wouldn't eat it because I don't know what medications you added to the tank. If you ever added medications and stuff like that, there is a chance. There is a chance that the medications could come over to you. It could be passed over to a human. It could be passed over to a cat. Although generally speaking, if you cook the arowana and feed it to your cat, it's probably fine. But, if you grew the fish not thinking that you were ever going to eat it, I would take into consideration whatever you added to the tank. If it's just been a fish and you didn't add, a bunch of ICX in the last 6 months and stuff like that, then it's probably fine. But I don't know. I couldn't give strict advice of eat it or not, because I don't know the history of it. But generally speaking, if you're, say, raising tilapia in a aquaponics situation, you normally have a calendar that you will mark specifically if you ever add anything to the tank into the aquaponics system that is a medication or anything like that. You will mark it on a calendar, and you, generally speaking, want to leave a 90-day window is probably fine. But, take it with a grain of salt if you want to seek some other expertise, sure. But, generally speaking, it's fine as long as you're not eating it even if you catch, for instance, you catch a tuna, there's a possibility that you could get, heavy metal poisoning, right? But that's if you're eating, 3 meals of that tuna every day for a really long period of time. I think you have to do for a month or something. So, generally speaking, you should be fine. But arowana, fully cook it because it is a predatory type fish. And anything, generally speaking, that is predatory that you catch, cook it all the way because most predators have some kind of parasite. Fish less so than animals, but yeah. Elijah Gordon says they taste pretty good, though. In my experience, I've had fish that was close to arowana, but not specifically. And yeah, I mean, I love eating fish. That's for sure. I made clam strips by hand for dinner last night. I love eating fish and stuff. Chicken's my go-to, though. I gotta be 100% honest with you guys. I eat a lot of chicken. Chicken's my go-to. I wish fish and stuff was my go-to, but it's just it's very costly and doesn't go as far as chicken does. Legitimately, it's just the truth of having a family and trying to build for the future. Build for this little person right here. This little human up here in the corner. That's the whole thing, right? Texas Andy says, "Howdy, everyone. Sorry for a little late to the show, but what a good time to join in. Talking about eating a pet arowana. That's why you're my favorite fish tube guy." Well, it's legit, man. I mean, I wouldn't throw the fish away. Somebody mentioned plant it as fertilizer. Chevy Fish said bury it for fertilizer. At the very least, that's what I would do. At the very least, I would compost it and use it as fertilizer. If you did have, some kind of concern with medication and stuff like that. And I've done that many times with things like tilapia, any kind of goldfish, anything left over. Nowadays, I feed them to my chickens. If I do have a fish die or something like that, and it's in good enough shape, I will normally butcher them up and just feed them to my chickens. But you do want to be aware, if you're feeding too much fish to your chickens, you will get fishy eggs. They will taste and smell fishy. That is 100% guaranteed. 3:30, and I just got my little alarm to check super chats and that stuff, and We have no super chats for the day and 25 likes and 79 people watching. That seems like not enough like button pushing. Does that seem like enough like button pushing? I don't know. I'm not somebody who really gives a crap about likes, but apparently the robot algorithm machine learning that YouTube implements, apparently stupid like buttons are the most important thing, and sharing. Ooh, I put in a request for sharing. Did I, let me see here. Where's the sharing button? I think it's in analytics. Let's go over here to analytics real quick. Audience, engagement, reach. Is it maybe in reach? Let's see. It's in here somewhere. It's somewhere in the analytics. We may never know. We may end up never knowing what it is that I'm looking for. We were looking for this a while ago. Let's just go to videos because it'll say whether or not somebody shared it on there. Let's take a look. Subscribers 0. Ooh, we gained 0 subscribers from that video. That's not good. I thought it was an engagement or reach. Gosh, I don't even know anymore. They keep changing this stupid thing. Yeah, I don't know where the shares was. There was a button that would tell you, but it's gone now, I think. I don't know. They must have gotten rid of it. It was probably too much. It was probably too much responsibility. I don't know where it went. It's around here somewhere. Oh, dang. I'll find it later. Sorry, guys. Quick distraction while I tried to find how many times the share button had been hit, and I failed. Couldn't find it. It's somewhere around here. The stupid analytics are wildly out of control these days. Where is it? Playlists. Here it is. There's this button. Because somebody was asking me, I think that's what it was. A while ago, somebody was asking me, you're like, why don't you make more edited content? And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of being crass or whatever. And, I mean, I guess I wasn't being like harshly crass. I was kind of just like, well, what do you want me to do? Go broke or what? And, so I guess it was a little bit crass, but there was let's see. So I went to analytics because I wanted to tell people what had happened. Let me go to one that's been up longer from like last week. Here we go. So last week, 0 subscribers, views, likes, dislikes, Oh, maybe it's down here. Maybe we have to hit this button now. Nope. Huh. I don't know. I guess we have to close that. I don't know. It's around here somewhere. Someday we'll find it. Probably not today, though. Anyhow, I was being a little bit grouchy. I was being a little grouchy McGroucherton. Because I'm like you guys. I get grouchy sometimes. I'm just like a regular human guy. And I was like, well, this video had never been shared. I didn't get any subscribers, and it made $2.97 minus all the federal tax money that's going to be taken out, and income tax. So I was having a laugh about that. Anyhow, and I was like, we'd only had 2 shares in the whole month. So long story short, we were trying to get those buttons pushed. Because the robots, they want us to push buttons, apparently. Jake D is there, and I got a Facebook message from Jake because I had shared with him a lovely video that I had watched earlier today while I was working. I've been doing my manufacturing here in my home, air quote, shop. It's like that old barn. It's like the old barn that I work out of. That's like was a garage at one point. I don't know. It's a crappy building, so it's kind of ridiculous to call it a shop because it's not really a shop. It's just like some boards with a roof over it. Anyhow, so we're out there and had listened to this documentary about this dude and his wife that were down in California, had built their house and everything all by hand and all that. It was really fantastic. So it's good to hear from Jake. He says, one day maybe I'll catch a fish big enough to eat. Until then, I throw them back. Which I can 100% relate to that. That's just life right there. That's just life, Never catching a big fish, which is totally normal. The horse shows people were worse than the dog show people. I don't know what you guys are talking about in the chat. Melly Well says, I've been vegan for a long time, and the only thing I really miss is tuna on my salad and barbecued salmon and trout. We could pretty readily be a pescatarian if you wanted to. I was vegan for the better part of, I would say 5.5 years. I was well over the 5-year mark. So I understand the vegan lifestyle. I get it. It definitely makes sense to me. The one thing I get concerned about is whether or not people are getting the proper vitamin load, if they're eating too much processed food. You can easily end up eating tons of processed food if you go vegan. So you can literally just be eating fake chicken nuggets, which are realistically worse for you than just eating some chicken. That's the stuff I really worry about. Some of my friends that when I was vegan thought it was the most ridiculous thing that they'd ever heard of, are vegan now and had moved to Utah just a little while ago, and I was chatting with them via the internet just a little while ago, and they were talking about the one thing they miss was cheese. And I get it. I just think I think a more realistic methodology, there we go. A more realistic methodology for somebody like me, which may or may not only be 10% of the population, but that's still between 30 and 40 million Americans, right? Which is a considerable amount of people when you think about it. Is that maybe that 10% of the population starts becoming more food independent, and the way that I mean with that is that start producing some of your own food, some more production from more people, right? And that's the same kind of thing that goes with the fish club I was talking about earlier, is that it's really easy to be extremely disorganized and not together when only a couple of people are doing something. But when the more people are observing it, the more people that are engaging with it, the more people that know what's going on, you will see ultimately better results. Because one of the things about being human is making progress. We're all, and maybe not all, but 99%, 95% of humans are trying to improve regardless of what's going on. And I recently was listening to a psychiatry podcast, and one of the examples that they were using for that, because they were discussing universal basic income, is that a lot of people out there seem to have the idea that if universal basic income was adopted, that everyone would just stay at home and eat Cheetos all the time, right? But the example that they used was people in prison, right? So prisoners that will likely never escape or never get out. They have their 3 meals, their roof, all that stuff covered, essentially living in prison, right? Living in prison, they're going to get food. They're going to have a toilet, running water, a bed, a roof, basic care, blah, 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 whatever, right? Generally speaking, even those humans, not to name anybody specifically, but those people that are in the prison are generally striving to improve their living standard. So they're, decorating, they're buying, selling, and trading things. They're trying to find work. They're finding stuff to do. They're working out. They're reading books. They're just generally trying to improve their life. And I was really kind of intrigued by that, because it really kind of connected a parallel in my head. in regards to whether it's vegan, vegetarian, or that kind of stuff. And I honestly think that the biggest thing that most Americans could get into is starting to diversify two things, and that would be your food security and your income security. The best thing that you could do is diversify those. I think we're definitely seeing the combination of those with what's happening with the pandemic right now. Is that, do people know if they're food secure, right? If you live in an apartment, it's extremely difficult to grow or source your own food, but it is not impossible. And that's one of those things. That's why I talk about aquaponics a lot. You can build a pretty basic aquaponics system that can grow some of your food. Even if you live in the middle of the city, vertical farming in a aquaponic type setup in an apartment can actually grow not all of your food, but it is a goal to get to a point where, let's say you are at 60%. If you're at 60% of your food is coming from whatever it is you're doing, actively doing, and that when I say you're actively doing something, let's say you're hunting or fishing, and if you're doing that, if you're hunting or fishing, you need to actively do something to improve that population of the thing that you are hunting or fishing, right? So let's say you're hunting a deer and you are fishing for a bunch of fish. How are you contributing to replace those back into the population? Because the human population isn't declining, right? The human population is just growing. And if we're eating, if we're consuming, we want to be contributing back into that ecosystem. Some methodology that increases the production from that food source, whether it be animal or strictly vegetable and stuff like that, right? So those are kind of like the basic practices that I talk about on a pretty regular basis. I know that I honestly don't make enough videos about the gardening stuff that Vicky and I do. We did have big plans this year to be doing a lot more filming and doing a lot more of our garden vlogs and at an increased quality content than we were before. But the unfortunate onset of this the pandemic situation has literally, we're both doing the same amount of work. We're both working full time from home, and the baby is here. So we have no daycare. So we're legit just like, Vicky works for 2 hours. I watch the baby for 2 hours while she's working. Then she can stop working for a while and watch Olivia for 2 hours. And then I go to work for 2 hours. And then we're just back and forth like that, more or less, throughout the day, into the evening, into the night. And I've pretty much just been staying up till midnight most every night trying to get work done. So it has been a bit of a struggle. And one of the things that just got knocked right off the back of the table was the garden vlogging stuff and trying to document the stuff that we're working on, because, I haven't had time to film any of the stuff because there just really hasn't been any prolonged, time to be able to set up cameras and film it all and, figure out what's going on. It's just been a little bit rough. So, but that's okay. I'm not mad. It just is what it is. Ken says, I will say we can't keep up with the demand, working hard to get food to everyone. Yeah. I'm really wondering what's going to happen if, as things continue forward. I don't know if we're going to realistically get to a food shortage. Like, I don't think that we will. And I think one of the reasons for that is that we were wasting so much time or so much food already, that even if we scale it back a little bit, the production should still be there, San Ginger says, I'm 57, a meat and potatoes kind of girl. All my waistline and my waistline shows it. Well, that's reality, you know. Yeah. Big D Smoke says a lot of vegetables. I just can't go without meat. Well, I mean, I get it. Like, it's different for everybody. Like, everybody has a different biology. You know, everybody has a different biology, so it's not a one size fits all solution. And even if it was a one size fits all solution, like, I don't even know what that would look like. Honestly, I personally don't. I'm just not bright enough to know the future. My crystal ball seems to be broken, so don't know about that. And I definitely have taken a step back. I've definitely taken a step back in regards to my connection with certain people that just can't relate to other people's lifestyles. You know what I mean? I've definitely gotten more, like, I'm losing my tolerance for people that, you know, a kind of bad mouth on other people's lifestyle. I don't know. But that's me personally. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but that's me. Ken is in Washington State answering Bracken. What's up, Bracken? Good to see you, my guy. Hope we get to hang out sometime, man. I'd like to hang out with Bracken. This is getting, honestly, like, I've reached that point in the show where I think I've been talking long enough that I just realized, like, guys, I'm getting kind of sad. I'm just getting kind of sad in life right now. Like, it's been a little bit rough just being home this whole time. Yeah. Just would love to, I don't know, maybe I need to get more sleep. I don't know what it is, but yesterday just kind of washed over me with just kind of sad, you know, just kind of sad. But hopefully it's just passing and it won't be a big deal. But that's life sometimes, you know. Struggle with depression sometimes, man. Spent the last 2 weeks loafing around, hopped on the scale and lost 5 pounds. What? Well, hey, man, maybe you've been eating good. I don't know what's going on there. Texas Andy says we collect and throw Christmas trees into parts of the lake and river every year to build up fish territory and give them more places to hide and thrive, then get caught. But still, yeah, actually, yeah, that is strangely beneficial. But yeah, that's good stuff. It says I have to say, people in prison, some of the most clever, innovative people due to the situation, given they are not using it always towards good. But hey, if there's a will, there's a way. Yeah, and that's based on, like, you know, the reality of the human nature of continuing to improve. Like, it's kind of an aberration that when people are just kind of messy, like, people would look at it and go like, well, you're being messy, so I don't, you know, you're just being messy, so you're obviously not looking to improve your situation. And that's not necessarily the case when it comes to that. You know, like, you can be messy but continuing to improve. Just don't be dirty. Like, that's the rule, right? Cooley Kev says, how much has that crypt nurii grown since you planted it a while back? Don't know what video you're speaking of, but I have lots of crypt nurii. So I don't know. I don't know how much it's grown because I don't know which one that is. We got a $5 super chat from Michael Allen. He was first to the chat and first to the super chat. Well, thank you, my brother. It says, don't be sad, be glad. All right. I will do my best. Yes. You know, just letting y'all know. Sometimes it's sad out there. Glass City Fish Witch, what is up? God. It could have something to do with the pollen out here, but man, I am like, I don't know about you guys, but like the pollen count is through the roof out here, and it is affecting me in special ways. That's for sure. Same with Vicky; her allergies are out of control. Yeah, it's been an ongoing That's been an ongoing thing too. Let's see. What are we going here? Oh, there was a thing I wanted to mention. Terry's Tropical Tanks renewed his membership over the weekend, I think. That's what YouTube told me. So I just want to give a shout out. Hey, if you were a member before, sometimes your card expires or whatever. So shout out to Terry for renewing and coming on back. It was like a year ago. Cooley Kev says it was like a year old video, I think. How do you recommend I get my hands on some? Yeah, I find somebody who's selling it online. I mean, I don't know that I have tips. Crypt Nurii is a pretty rare-ish crypt, and rare is kind of like a weird term to use for it, but it's fairly difficult to source it out. You're just gonna have to find somebody that's growing it. I got mine from Travis. So, yeah. And he's on like Facebook planted groups and stuff like that. That's generally where I see a lot of plants come up for sale, is like on Facebook plant sale groups, like. But I don't go in for the auction stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I don't go in for online auctions. I just don't even bother. Yeah. But if I see a plant and it reminds me like, oh, I better look into it. Like, there's a couple of online retailers that I will go to, which is like, I'll check with Aquarium Co-op, obviously, because, I work for Aquarium Co-op some of the time. And so I definitely check Aquarium Co-op, see if I can get it there. And then I'll check like Boost Plant, like maybe they have it. There is a rare plant seller on Etsy that I check in with, whose name escapes me. It's like Plant something, I don't know. It's like probably like Aquarium Plants or something goofy like that. Those are pretty much the ones. Most of the other YouTubers, like I don't know that there's any other like plant selling YouTuber that I could recommend. I mean, not to be specific, but I see pretty bad reviews often from a lot of them. So, my recommendation is always, my first recommendation is always a local hobbyist. My second recommendation is Aquarium Co-op. If they don't have it, I'll check with like Boost Plant. Is probably my third, but realistically, like that Etsy seller, there's only like 3 Etsy sellers that sell plants. So any of those 3, like the marketplace there is pretty limited. I've only ever seen like 3 people selling aquarium plants on there, and one of them has a huge list and is a good spot to go. But it's also I don't know. It's a weird crapshoot. I used to go to aquariumplants.com, but they moved from Iowa to Florida, and then it seems like a lot of stuff changed when they moved. So I don't know, but they might still do good stuff. I get emails from them constantly. Got to drink my instant coffee. And shout out to all the people out there that always tell me that, like, I need to buy expensive coffee. And I'll tell you this, guys. I don't know, man. I don't personally buy expensive coffee for myself because it's just money that I could use to try and do more documentaries and stuff. Like, okay. I feel like an hour in, most people here are fans and aren't going to be super pissed about this. But I do realize some people got super pissed the other day when I was talking about it. Guys, what do we have here? We have something here that I'm happy to say has showed up. It's been a long time coming. I've never owned a Canon, like, high-end Canon lens before. Like, I have their macro lens. I have some nice lenses. I have the 16 to 35, but it's the f4. And I honestly am really excited to be the owner of this lens right here. This thing is a chunky monkey. Can you see how big this thing is? This thing is a chunky, heavy piece of glass. I'm very excited that this lens is here. I still have not put it on my camera yet because I just want to know that I have some time to really sink into checking out this lens. And I don't know if it's obvious to you guys, but I changed a bunch of stuff in the studio here in my office. I'm actually shooting on a new different camera now. I don't know if anybody's noticed that, but like everything in the background is all blurry now. I do got new lighting back here. I don't know. I've just been incrementally trying to improve whatever it is I'm doing, and this is very exciting. It's very exciting to have this lens. And honestly, I'm one of those guys that's like, let's say I spend, let's just take a random number. Let's say I spend $50 a month on coffee or something, right? Is there a way that I could spend $20 on coffee and put $30 towards towards something like a camera lens or whatever? And that's basically what I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years or something like that. I know that Stan the Observer was watching one of my older videos, and he was like, man, what is this crazy? He had commented like, what is this crazy video? And he had nicely commented that I've come a long way in what it is I'm producing, what it is that I'm doing. And I have to admit, stuff like that, like, it really is to lift me up, where it's like, I watch all your new stuff, and this old crap is way crappier than the stuff you make now. It's just a general appreciation, that really just kind of makes all those little sacrifices worth it. And so I don't buy expensive coffee. I don't do stuff like that. I make my pot of Folgers in the morning, and yeah, I put cream and sugar in it because it's really crappy coffee. But, it's the way to go. I do buy a Starbucks every now and again, but I just buy the shots of espresso. I don't know if you guys know this trick, but if you buy just shots of espresso, it's way cheaper than getting a latte because you get 4 shots of espresso over ice. It's like, I think it's like, I don't know, it's been quite a while, but I think it's only like $2.70 or something like that. I don't know. I think that's what it was, because you're just buying the shots like a la carte, so it's much cheaper, and they just will let you do it at Starbucks. So I just walk over and put a little half and half in it and shake it up, and I'm like, yeah, there's 4 shots. Let's get wild, So, but that's really only like when I go up to work. Like I don't like leave the house to go get, I don't leave the house to go like buy espressos or anything. Texas Andy said, oh my God, how dare you spend your money on things you want? Well, it is spending money on production for the channel that is funded by fans. Like I said earlier, like we don't have any sponsors anymore. We used to have sponsorship to a degree. I don't know how to explain that. Aquarium Co-op still sponsors, but I do work for them, so I don't know how that works to make heads or tails of that, because I get paid for work, and then that money goes back into this. Because I literally just got done doing my taxes, which was a little brutal, and I was a little bit stressed out by the end of it, because the profit and loss sheet was negative $4,000 by the end of the year. So, yeah, there was that. So I did have that going, So, yeah, I've been definitely investing my own money into doing this stuff. It takes a lot to build like a $3,000 computer and that kind of stuff. And I bought all the parts, but and assembled it myself and made it work and all that. But, when you're video editing, by the way, like one of the hidden costs that nobody ever talks about is like when your video editing software costs like $500 a year. That's a real kick in the balls. I'll tell you that much. Like it's just, it's just a brutal situation. Yeah. So disaster. We got a $5 super chat from Ginger Grave, says lurking and water changing. Only one big mess so far. Congrats on the new lens. That's exciting. It is. To be honest with you, it is very exciting, and I know for you guys, it's like most people, it's minimally exciting. It's not that big of a deal, but I took all of my Amazon affiliate income over the last 5 months. I combined that in. I had some credits, some Amazon credits from people. I also bought a refurbished version. So apparently the box had gotten destroyed and they had to replace the box. That's what it had said. Like that was the refurbishing that they had done on it, which was hilarious because I'm like, I don't care about the box, but the box, they even replaced it. So it was literally like, I think it was something like $300 off because it was the refurbished one, which they had refurbished the box, which I didn't even care. And it was still like $1,700, after all that. So, it's a big investment for me considering the truck I drive was like, $2,400. I drive an old ass crappy truck, but it runs great and I love it. So, it's a truck you can lay down all of the seat down and lay 100% flat in the back of that thing. And I have a mattress that I made. Jeff Miller says the white Canon L series lens are white because they absorb less heat than black. They also cost 4 times as much. Just a heads up. So this is the RF 15 to 35 2.8. The f 2.8. This is pretty much the highest end consumer wide angle lens that Canon makes. It was considerably expensive. The white version that is the 70 to 200 that matches this is the same price. And there is the mid-range one that is 28 to 70. I don't know that I'll ever own all three. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know if I'll ever own all three because another investment like this in a lens is probably pretty far off. You know what I mean? So someday maybe we'll get there. I don't know. I hope to get there. I really do. I really hope to someday have an editor, an extra cameraman, a whatever. I really hope to. But, we shall see. And it's always a waiting game with all that stuff. So, getting a monumental amount of emails all of a sudden. LinkedIn. It does not matter how. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. It does not matter how many times I flag LinkedIn as spam. It still comes. I still get LinkedIn messages. I don't even want a LinkedIn. I have turned off my LinkedIn account. It is bonkers how much email I get from LinkedIn, even though I don't have anything to do with that website. It's just bizarre to me. I don't know. It's mind-boggling. But it's always literally like, sign into LinkedIn and give a congratulations to Bob, some guy you met once a million years ago for he got some kind of promotion or something at his job. And it's like, what? Why? What? Oy. You know. So let's see what we got. I'm considering just shrimp, craze, and nano fish. What do we got? Fishy was saying something. What type of shrimp do you keep? I keep Neos, and order coming this week. Yeah, I keep Pintos. I keep Fire Neo, Caradinas, and Nancy are the 3 shrimps that I have now. Oh, I have bamboo shrimp too. And I think that's it. 4. I think that's it. I don't have any like Amanos or anything like that right now. Let's see. Michael Allen says universal basic income could make that happen. It's possible. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what would happen if they actually did universal basic income. I haven't noticed. I don't know. I don't know what people's spending habits look like or anything like that these days. I haven't really been looking too much into the specific economic impact happening for the individuals. I've been kind of looking into what's happening with the government and all that kind of stuff, but you know, it just is what it is. Like I don't know if or when or anything like that that will ever really pan out, that the government economic type stuff is really going to do anything, because like the last 25 years that I've been concerned about it, all they've been doing is running these phenomenal deficits every year. It's at like $23 trillion now or something crazy like that. So I'm like, there seems to be no repercussion regarding how or why this government is run. I don't know. It's bizarre to me. Alyssa Bentley, I did the math. Because I drink 2 of those lattes a day, it's a car payment. I got to get a cappuccino machine. Ooh. Oh, that's what I'm wondering. That you guys reminded me. So one of the things that I do, 3-in-1 coffee packets. And so here's one of the things that I do to avoid. Let me find one that's a reasonable price. The one that I normally get right now is outrageously priced. Oh, here we go. This is the one I normally get. Is this correct? Oh my God. Is this literally 2 packets? No, there's no way. Oh, there's 20 in each one. Yeah, that looks right. And it's Prime. Okay, yeah, I'm cool with sharing this one. This is the one I normally get, and this looks like the 2 bags, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is the correct one. I just want to double check, because prices on things on Amazon have been super weird lately. So here's like, this one's like $14 for 40 of these instant packets that are Vietnamese coffee, which I love Vietnamese coffee, but there's no way I can go get Vietnamese coffee made all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not going to work. I can't just be going to a Vietnamese restaurant and getting Vietnamese coffee all the time, because you guys know me. I love Vietnamese food. So I can't just be going to a Vietnamese restaurant and being like, yes, I'll just have a coffee and not some delicious food, because then I would have food also. And then, like, what do you know? I'm going to be the poorest person in the whole entire world, though I'll probably be pretty happy because I'll have eaten all of the delicious food. So that's fine. But it just doesn't seem like a good economic plan long term. But there's a link right there in the chat that's that 3-in-1 instant coffee. It's literally like you heat up 6 to 8 ounces of water, add the packet to it, and you're good to go. It's literally instant coffee, cream and sugar. Like, it's basically all that it is. So it's just like ready to go. It's a way more economically effective way of going about getting a coffee. It's literally the same crap that you would get if you ordered a cappuccino or something like that, pretty much anywhere. And that's one of the brands that I like because it doesn't have anything weird in it. So maybe that helps anybody out there that's like fiending for the espresso and stuff like that. It's really close to like just getting a like a little like double shot latte at like Starbucks or something like that, and it comes out to like 40 cents or something versus the $5 that you would spend at like a latte stand or whatever. Uh-oh. Ed's fish is down to 2 rolls, about to get rough. Well, if you do get completely out of your mind because there is no toilet paper, hold on. I have to find this thing for you. So it's the diaper spray for toilet, right? That's what it is. Diaper sprayer for toilet. That's what it's called. So this thing right here, and where's the one that we got? There's one that we got. Oh, here it is. So this is the one that we got. This is like the easiest way to, if you run out of toilet paper and you can't find any in your area, this is essentially unlimited toilet paper, and that's a diaper sprayer. You basically go to the back of your toilet, unscrew the water supply, turn the water supply off with the valve that's right there, unscrew that, screw this attachment in, screw the pipes all back together, and it's just like a sprayer that like normally you'd see on the side of your sink, but it's long enough. It has all the hanging brackets and all that kind of stuff. And you can literally spray your butt off. I mean, I don't know if there's like a nicer way to, I don't know if there's like a nicer way to explain it, but you spray your butt off and it's pretty much just endless butt cleaning without having to get like some kind of crazy bidet situation or take a shower every time you have to use the toilet. I mean, it's a reality that we live here in this pandemic situation. And toilet paper has become a concern somehow. I guess it's in, I don't know if people like put it in their attic or what the deal is, but apparently everybody went out on a bum rush, bought all the toilet paper. And I was actually listening to Tom Green the other day, and he had a great take on it, was that the people went on a toilet paper run because of its size, right? He said he had a really good take where it was like the toilet paper comes in such a large package that when people started buying, everyone went down and bought toilet paper. Then all of a sudden, there's like this really big void where toilet paper used to be, and then it inspired everyone else that like, oh my God, there will be no toilet paper. I better buy toilet paper because of the empty space, the giant empty space that it used to take up. And I think realistically, I think he's onto something there. I think the psychology of like, that normally takes up such a large space. There's this whole empty aisle all of a sudden, and then everybody started buying it. But if you are really in that spot where you're just like, dude, I can't find toilet paper or whatever, maybe you can order that attachment, get it sent out. It even said it was going to be delivered here by the 29th. So that's pretty quick, these days. Mostly the stuff I need to order, which is filters for my respirator. I still can't order filters for my respirator. It's a real disaster. as they would say, it's strongly a disaster, right? So it kind of irritates me, but it is what it is. But I will tell you that I would at least click that Amazon link to go over to the handheld bidet toilet sprayer, because the imagery in the Amazon advertising is the funniest stuff, because it's like cleaning the toilet, washing the floor, seniors, pets and bath, swash water sink. I don't know what the word swash is. It doesn't make any sense. And baby diaper cleaning, because that's what it's for. You're supposed to install it off the side of your toilet. It's really easy to install. That's why I was recommending it. Very easy to install. It's for spraying out dirty diapers into the toilet. And we were doing the cloth diaper thing for a while, and I'll be darned if Vicky and I just aren't talented enough to continue pulling that off. Also, we weren't that motivated, and I think we were motivated, but with both of us working and all that stuff, like, it just really wasn't working out that well, just honestly trying to do the cloth diapers. But maybe if we have another baby, we'll try it again. But I think the biggest impediment was that she was going to daycare, and you really can't do the cloth diapers at daycare. I think the daycare people will do it or whatever, but I don't think they're into it. I don't think it's like a great, trying to be the one baby at daycare that's doing cloth diapers and everybody else isn't. Big D Smoke says he's on his second roll since this thing started. The last thing I'm worried about is toilet paper. Yeah, I don't know what that statement is supposed to mean, and I'm not going to claim to know, but it's pretty funny. Michael Allen, you don't know how to use the seashells? Oh, yeah, from like Demolition Man? Yeah, I get it. I know how to use the seashells. I just don't have any seashells. Jeff, I can get to the second seashell, but not sure what to do with the third. Well, if I have to tell you, boy, howdy. I don't know what to tell. If I have to tell you, then, let's see. Avery Sean, Joel, is 2 Phoenix planted 24/7 lights on a 90-gallon considered high light. I don't think I have enough light for my plants. Thanks for advance. Hashtag Fluval's tripping. That's a throwback. You are correct. That is a throwback. But Fluval's always tripping. They got bought by Hagen, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You have to contact Rolf C. Hagen Jr. Rolf Jr. to try and get him to stop tripping. Because he's the Hagen guy. They got bought. That was years ago. That's not news. So don't get mad at me. It's not news. This isn't a news release. Let me see. Where'd my button go here? I lost my button. Oh, yeah. I was answering your question about the... I don't know if I would consider that highlight. Let me think about how to answer that. The best way to know if you have highlight is put an actual par meter on the tank and see what's going on with it. Oftentimes that's not available to people, but I'm feeling the vibe in my head is that that's likely not highlight. It's probably like just a solid medium or something like that. But before you go out and buy more lights, certainly can. If it's available in your budget and it's not going to overwhelm you, you can go get more lights. I'm not going to discourage anybody from like buying lights if that's what you had your heart set on. But my initial advice would be make sure your CO2 saturation is where you want it. So you might need to bring up CO2 higher. It almost always is too low. I was actually... was I talking with Tom about this? I think Tom Barr and I were yelling at somebody on Facebook in a nice way. But realistically, drop checkers are kind of a waste. You should be testing your pH. Make sure your pH drop is about a whole point. So if you're normally at 7, you'd want your pH to drop to 6 when you're getting all the CO2 in your tank. But CO2 would be the first thing I would worry about, and I wouldn't worry too much about the light. CO2 would be the first thing. Then I would get into what your fertilizer schedule is. You may need to amend your fertilizer schedule. The amount you're fertilizing, you might need to up the amount of fertilization. And one of the reasons that people have asked me over the years, they're like, well, how do you test to make sure your fertilizer's high enough? I've really simplified my test to checking nitrates, because almost every fertilizer I've ever used that is a mixed fertilizer will essentially elevate your nitrates, right? So I bring my nitrates up. Oftentimes I'm going as high as 80 parts per million. And to those of you out there that are always freaked out about your nitrates going too high, don't go over 200 parts per million in nitrate. Nitrate sensitivity is pretty rare in almost all of the fish and shrimp that we keep. Now, obviously, there are, like this little guy over here, that are more sensitive to high levels of nitrate, but it's pretty rare. Most of the things that we're keeping are fine. It's not a big deal. But I keep mine at 60 or 80, right around there. And that's generally what we're shooting for. And then the third thing would be light. So I generally go in that succession. Like, that's where I start to really address, like, what's going on. Now, if I have to go further than that, I'm probably going to start back over at 1. You know what I mean? Like, if I start getting to the point where I'm like, it seems like flow might be over, there's too much flow. No, there's not enough flow. I don't know. If I'm at that point, I'm like, let me go back to the beginning and start over again at 1, which is almost always CO2. I mean, realistically, it just is almost always like a CO2 deficiency. And it also depends on the plants that you have. So let's say you had nothing but anubias in a tank. It's sort of a waste of CO2 to even really do anything that way, unless you're trying to, like, really farm out your anubias. Then it's quite useful, because as you trim and propagate anubias, it's really great to have a high level of CO2 to allow them to recover and continue to grow. But other than that, it's not, you don't really need it for anubias and stuff like that. If you were just growing some pretty easy plants, then it might not be that big of a deal, but CO2 is generally in there. Adrian Rodriguez asks, are there any passive CO2 diffusers that you know about? I build reactors. I build CO2 reactors that are maybe fairly passive. I mean, the reason I use reactors is that I get full diffusion into the water column. It's a really stable way to put CO2 into the tank. And I find it to be the least amount of maintenance and fuss and messing around with it and all that kind of stuff. It's really just inject CO2 in there, let it dwell in the chamber, gets put into the tank, and I'm not worried about CO2 gassing off. It's really not something that really concerns me. It's not something that I start to lose my mind about, like, oh my God, my CO2 I paid for. You know, if that's something that you're concerned about, you're way past 1, 2, and 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're way down at number 14, right? And that's not gonna lead to anything good for anybody. But one thing I got to do here, I forgot to do earlier, and that is give a shout out to Andrew Helge, who became a Patreon over the weekend. Thank you very much, Andrew. And Matthew Fish edited his pledge in the upward direction to $10 a month, man. Thank you very much, guys. I forgot to do that. And I just noticed it over here on my things I was supposed to talk about today. So my bad. But shout out to Andrew if you're watching, and shout out to Matthew Fish if you're watching. Hey, thanks, guys. And also, thanks everybody else, too. Like, shout out to you guys, too. I'd just like to give that specific shout out. Excuse me. Man, my pollen count's like at 1 billion, and it's driving me nuts. Joel G says, I'm freaked out about global warming and high nitrates. Well, you're down there on the island out in the middle of nowhere. I think you'll be fine. At least you're surrounded by pretty sensible people, so there's that. Fishy Fun is asking, what type of fish can I put 2M red gold Agassiz pistos with? They're arriving in 2 days. Well, if they're arriving in 2 days, you can't put anything with them until they're quarantined long enough. So you better be quarantining those fish. Otherwise, you're going to run a good chance of running into some serious problems. It'll give you time to do a little bit of research. I mean, apistos can go with a lot of fish. Generally, any tetras, pretty much. I would say any rasboras, a little too small, a little too slow, will probably get picked on. Anything that dwells at the top of the water, so killifish, upside-down cats, there's a whole bunch of fish that can go with them. The Agassiz apistos will generally just hang out down at the bottom. If you have a pair, they're going to pair up. They're going to pick an area of the tank, and they're going to be there making babies. That's pretty much what they're going to do most of the time, and then they'll pretty much fight with anybody that's getting close to them. That's kind of what they do, and but that's pretty much what they do. Is just like, hey, stay away, otherwise they'll get you. But that's pretty much what they're up to. So as long as it's something that's not going to go over there and get messed with, then, Sam Malone says, always too much KNO3 in them, if you ask me, which, all right, respect. Do. All right, I think I'm caught up with the chat. Not sure what to talk about anymore. Might just end up ending the show because we don't have a whole bunch of questions. Let me scroll up in the chat and see if I forgot, see if I missed anything. Brother, the pollen count is crazy down here, as well as everyone's coughing and sneezing, thinking they got the corona. Yeah, the pollen count this year, I have no idea what is going on. I typically don't have allergies, but it's like hear that? It's like settled in. The pollen is living inside my lungs, and it is weird. Let me scroll up even further. Have her on the live stream. Everyone loves cute babies. I don't know if I'll have Olivia on the live stream or not. I don't know if I'm going to put her on YouTube more than these old pictures of her, because she literally just looks like a baby here. She's not really like a person. And I don't know, some people have been like, man, that's overly paranoid of you. But also at the same time, like, we post pictures of her up on Facebook and Instagram a little bit here and there. So if people really need to get updated, you guys can follow me on Instagram or become a friend with me on Facebook and then get super mad about my politics or whatever, freak out and block me or whatever, which has been happening lately. Mainly because, I feel like Facebook is the town square. That's pretty much how that's pretty much my relationship with Facebook, is like I'll comment on people's stuff or whatever because it's basically town square as far as I'm concerned. You're essentially just having a conversation about all of the stuff that goes on, and that's what I do. I've been on that stupid Facebook forever, and I have a lot of people I know on there, so that's kind of why I just feel free to rant at people on there, I guess. I don't know. We could always do a donut meet online and have everyone make their own donuts and just chill. Yeah, Ken, we got to do a donut meetup at some point in time. I don't even know if Legendary Donut is open or not. I bet they are. I bet they're open for pickup. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know how this is going to go. Like, the reality is, like, there's a whole bunch of vaccines that have been developed, and they're all being tested. And the unfortunate side is that you have to go through the clinical trials, and the clinical trials take a certain amount of time because of the biology factor. It's the human biology that the clinical trials are dealing with, and it takes the amounts of time to make sure that these vaccines work or not and aren't going to harm a bunch of people, you know. It takes a long time for a vaccine to get approved, and, you know, the efficacy of it, what's going into it, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and I don't know when a vaccine will be out. They haven't found a therapy that's considered effective yet, so there's been a bunch of therapies that have been touted by some people that really shouldn't be recommending them, and they have turned out to be not good. So we shall see. I don't know when we're going to be able to do donut meetups. I'm super depressed. I think that's part of it. Like, I think part of my depression is that I just realized that the other day the Interzoo's not happening. I had a bunch of plans for when we went to Europe. A bunch of personal plans that were related to Vicky and I. On top of going to Interzoo, we were going to do some other stuff. You know, some of those life goal things, some of those bucket list things that we're going to do, and that's not happening, and I don't know when that's going to happen. So yeah, I mean, it's just I think that's probably like a big part of you know, just being depressed over this whole thing is just stuff like that. You know, it's like I don't think there's going to be any conventions this year. I just really don't. You know, I don't think there's going to be any donut meetups, man. And I love donut meetups, like going to meet Ken and Dennis in person and go have donuts. Like, that was awesome, you know, and I would like to do that again. I don't know when any of that stuff's going to happen, man. So I don't know. I don't know. Dennis has a good point. Says when they do start to open things up, I'll still be here at home by myself all day, so I'll get to see how it works out before I put myself out there. That's pretty smart. Let's see. The sad thing is they want to fast track the vaccines, meaning not as much trials for vaccines. Well, the thing is that the fast track portion of the vaccine, I think a lot of people are confused by the fast track part. So the genetic mapping and the coding of the genetics of the virus used to take an extremely long amount of time if they could ever get it done. Obviously, before genetic mapping, the genome and that kind of stuff, like, they didn't have that. That wasn't available. But once it became available, it just took an extreme amount of time. Nowadays, they have the computing power to get that stuff out, the communication to get it to every lab, to get people to start developing stuff. So they actually develop it quite quickly. It's the testing part that takes a really long time. The testing part, there's just really no way around the biology of humans, and they have to test it on people. Once they get to the people testing, you can't speed that up. But if you look in the past, like, getting a vaccine would have taken 4 or 5 years, but that was all the lead up time to the testing, which was the genome mapping, figuring out what proteins affect it and all that kind of stuff. Now that stuff is super fast now. That stuff takes so much less time. Even I was able to pass on some of my computing power here from my office to help some of the labs out with processing some of the genome. I have no idea what was being processed. I just allocated part of mine up into the network so that they were able to utilize it. I wasn't really doing anything, so I'm not taking any kind of credit. But what I am saying is that all that stuff is extremely fast now. So they're able to map it and figure out ways to, build the immunities to it and to get the vaccines. But the biology of testing the humans is what takes so long. Jeff Miller says they stick the live virus in a chicken egg. It does its thing there for a while. When science stuff happens, they stick the goop in your ass. Sure. It's still funny. Let's see here. When they do start to, even though they do get a vaccine, I can't get shot anyway. Yeah. People keep talking about like herd immunity, and I think people are missing the herd immunity. But for those that can't be vaccinated, generally speaking, when everybody else is vaccinated, it stops the spread to get to them, right? So it, like the virus right now is spreading all over the place at a really high speed, and then everybody gets it. People aren't ready to handle it, and that's when the unfortunate loss of life generally happens. Jack Cernix wondering how my fish room is doing. I uploaded edited videos about that. It's doing fine. It's a fish room. The stuff's growing. Everybody's breeding and making babies in there. Baby shrimps, baby fish. All that stuff. Usual. Alana says, I teach preschoolers. Kind of hard to teach them how to interact with people if I can't interact with them. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I know that schooling's taking a hit. A lot of stuff's taking a hit, but I think the reality, is that what was I trying to say? The reality is, I think a lot of that stuff will get picked up. A lot of the community will more than likely come together to try and get some of that stuff going on. Fishy Fun says, they want to fast track the clinical trials, meaning not testing for as long as other clinical. No, they're definitely testing as long as they regularly do clinical trials. What the fast track commentary is that they were already testing on people, which they generally don't get to it this quickly. I think the first person that they were testing it on was like a month ago, or maybe even longer. That was up here in Seattle, one of the local, I think Kaiser Permanente was on that fast. I think it was Kaiser Permanente. I'm not 100%. You could go look it up, but they were administering the first round of human trials. Like, I would say, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. It was very quick. That's the part that they fast-tracked, was getting to the first group of people. They got to it, like, super quick. And I believe it was like, I think the first group was like 60 people or something like that. So they found volunteers pretty quick here in Washington State. That was the first one. So they can't shorten the period of the clinical trials. That's why I'm saying that it's going to take a certain amount of time. Now, they may go group 1, group 2, group 3 quicker than they normally do, but yeah, they're going as fast as they can. They got the first round of vaccine test there, which is if I am, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's one of the vaccines that attacks the I think it's the protein spike. I think is, I believe, the first one that they were testing. It essentially doesn't allow the virus to. So it has like a protein spike that it's able to. It's really like layman's terms. Obviously, I'm not a virologist or an epidemiologist, so don't quote me on this stuff. But I believe, if I can recall correctly, it attaches itself to the protein spike so that the virus is unable to infect within your body. But I don't know. You'd have to check and find those papers. But yeah, it was weeks and weeks and weeks ago that they had their first test subject, because it was here. It was really near to where I live, so they were definitely talking about it a lot here for 3 or 4 days. Like, it was kind of on every news report. Jack Sirnick. I don't know how to say your name, bro. So I'm just going to call you Jack. Jacek, maybe? Jacek? I don't know. Any other plans to expand your fish room? I mean, I literally was thinking about plans to expand my fish room. I was planning on trying to do the makerspace. I really wanted to do the makerspace. Obviously, with this pandemic, it means that having people come to anything, it might not be a good idea to try and do a makerspace. I really, really, really want a different workspace for my fish tanks. My room is quite small. I'm happy with it as it is, but I would like to continue moving forward in what I'm doing, and adding money into the building where my fish room is right now, in my opinion, is a waste of money. It was the best thing to do at the time when we bought this house. We've put a lot of work into this house. I've completely rewired all of the electrical in this house. We've run water. We've done endless repairs. The interior, blah, blah, blah. We've done tons of work to this house. It's much nicer than when we moved in. But at the time, the best thing that we could do was build a fish room in that old garage, remodel that garage, the portion of the garage that we did. And in my opinion, it's probably more money than it's worth to continue to remodel that building, because I really don't think that it would expand the value of the property. I don't think it would make it it would make it nicer or whatever, but it would be a lot of money spent that I feel like would be a bad investment. It would be putting money into something that just wouldn't really benefit the property here or everything that we're trying to do. Now, that said, my opinion is to build a new building altogether. But the problem with that is I don't think we're going to do that here at this property. So it might be a really long time before I'm able to do anything like expand the fish room or get a bunch more tanks or anything like that, because it's just, I would either have to come up with, I don't know, probably in the range of like $40,000, maybe 40 to 50, probably, if I did I'd do a lot of the work myself, which I would, is a realistic price tag for all of the groundwork, the foundation, and then erecting a building, which is always fun to say, erecting a building. It's hilarious. I'm 5, by the way. And so we could definitely put up a new building and do all that kind of stuff, but I just don't think that I don't think that that's viable here in reality. So fingers crossed the housing market continues to go back up, I don't know, man. This whole pandemic's really screwed everything up. If it comes down to it, I don't know. If it comes down to it, I don't know what I'm going to do. I realistically, I guess that would be my answer at this point. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I do know that I'm going to continue to invest in my infrastructure of what I'm doing here. So, building a better studio, better editing, better filming, all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to continue doing that because that's just the best thing in my opinion to do. So, I'm working on some new. Never mind. I'm not doing anything. Never mind, because I'm not going to talk about that. Has anyone noticed you don't hear much about the virus in the homeless population? We just had 4 cases in the homeless people today. I've been hearing quite a bit about it in the homeless population, but it's not good news. I'll tell you that. So it's not good. Let's see what we got here. Did I see the interview with the Vegas mayor? Yes, I did. That was insane. I don't have any other way to put it. That was just pure insanity, and I don't understand why that lady's the mayor, but welcome to Vegas, I guess. I don't know. All right. I'm just noticing the time here, and we don't really have that many questions. It's becoming meandering. So let's get out of here and go do something else. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, all the YouTube members, and thank you, all the patronizers, for your unwavering support. I appreciate it during this weirdo time that we're having here in the year 2020. So have a safe whatever, and I'll try to be back as soon as humanly possible.